it's Jeff and Kristen, and today we'll be talking about clothing's significance in providing context to Holden's relationships in The Catcher in the Rye. Now, the beginning of The Catcher in the Rye takes place in Pensy Prep, a high school that Holden has just been kicked out of. One of the first things that you learn about Pensy Prep is that it's full of crooks who do things like steal Holden's beloved camel's hair coat. This coat helps to provide context as to the relationship between Holden and the other kids at Pensy Prep.
Hint, it's not a good relationship.
Holden does not think highly of the Pensy Preppers because even though they are extremely privileged, they still engage in petty acts such as thievery. The acts are immature, and Holden's distaste for them stems from the phoniness, or the lack of respect and discipline in the school. Because Holden dislikes phonies and everything to do with them, and because the people at Pensy Prep would steal from greed rather than from necessity, the relationship between Holden and Pensy Prep is a disdainful one. This could also be the case with the other schools that Holden has been kicked out of, as he talks about them the same way he talks about Pensy Prep, with resentment and contempt.
In general, Holden feels as if his peers at Pensy and the other schools are freely taking from him without paying any mind to his feelings. They don't treat him as an equal, but rather take advantage of him. One such example would be when his roommate, Strilater, asked to borrow his houndstooth jacket for a night out with a date. Although Holden clearly states that he doesn't want Strilater to borrow his jacket, fearing that he would ruin it by stretching out the shoulders, his roommate borrows it anyway. Strilater brushes aside Holden's thoughts and opinions, not only then, but on numerous occasions, which is part of the reason why Holden does not think fondly of him, or the other kids at Pensy. The short argument between the two further exemplifies the level of immaturity rampant in Pensy. Instead of being resolved peacefully, every little issue leads to a fight or confrontation. We also get to see some of Holden's stubborn, quarrelsome side as a result of this conflict. In fact, he initiates a fight with Strilater later that evening. While Holden tends to think of himself as being above or more mature than his classmates, he is really just like them.
Once Holden finally leaves Pensy, he heads to New York, where it is freezing cold and snowing. On the way to his hotel room, Holden talks about how he wishes he had gloves to keep away the cold, but the ones that he had were stolen at Pensy. While he is complaining about his gloves being stolen, he acknowledges the fact that he wouldn't do anything violent to get them back, or do anything rash to the person who stole them. For all of his tough talk, he wouldn't get in a fight with the culprit of the crime. Holden's thought process and conversation with himself over the gloves makes him realize that he is a hypocrite. He ignores his hypocrisy by focusing on the gloves, and as much as he hates other people for being phonies, he can't stay genuine with other people or even himself.
One important aspect of Holden is his fondness for Phoebe. Holden has only good things to say about his little sister, while the opposite is true for nearly everyone else. Phoebe, according to Holden, is pretty, smart, and can dance well. He finds very little fault with her. A prime example of his affection for Phoebe is when he talks about how her clothes always look nice, and how Mrs. Caulfield gets her the prettiest dresses. In contrast, all the other kids have some terrible dress on, no matter how wealthy their parents are. This opinion could just be because of his soft spot for Phoebe. And, in Holden's mind, the same clothes might not look as good on other people as they do when Phoebe wears them. The pretty dresses she wears, which are a direct symbol of Holden's affection for her, are only made pretty by the fact that they're being worn by Phoebe. Otherwise, they'd be nothing more than ordinary articles of clothing. In short, clothing is used in The Catcher in the Rye in order to develop character relationships, specifically those involving Holden. Incidents involving clothing exemplify how Holden views others and how he views himself.